a lot of clients come to us, and when they hear that it's going to take time to build that foundation, and it takes 3-4 months to actually get their SEO to where it needs to be so that they have people coming to them, it can be a little disheartening. So I think having that additional resource of the paid ads, or even outbound emails, whatever is going to work for the industry, as a kind of stopgap is really helpful. And allowing clients to see those immediate results is great. But again, it's about having that next step planned. So when you have the foundation lead, those people that come to your website actually have a place to go and are engaged, and you have a place for them, and you can stay in touch with them over time.
Yeah. I mean, that is something that we share. Like, we have a visual for that. That's basically saying, inbound alone, if you just did inbound alone, it probably takes about 6 months to really start to see, see that hockey stick shaped curve. Mm-hmm. But what we'll probably do is try to move on so that we're in a scenario where, sorry about that. It'll be in a scenario where you can speed that process up by doing paid ads, by doing email blasts, and doing those type of things. Yeah. So you're not always waiting for inbound marketing to, you know what I mean? Like, the hardest spot is that you're going to say it's a process, and the boss is going to be tapping his foot because he's paid the bill month over month and hasn't seen the total results yet. But the promise that we say right up front in the gap assessment is that we're building a machine, we're building a system. If you're looking for a quick fix, we're not the company for you. But if you want to be able to build a 3 to 5 year roadmap to 5x to 10x your business, we're going to have to build this system for you. And, I know you want to see results right out of the gate, but as soon as we get done onboarding, this is sort of what a traditional growth curve looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this graph. I think I've used the analogy with clients before of term life insurance versus whole life insurance, or your savings. And so when you start out with a hot, you start out paying for ads, but over time, as your SEO increases, you can decrease your ad spend because those people are finding you organically. And I think that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that it has to be redefined in the beginning of a relationship, because what I find is that from a marketing perspective, a lot of times what happens a lot of times is that clients will have expectations that you're going to get results in 90 days. And if not, it's kind of a waste of money. And not a waste of money, but it's just they're not seeing the big picture. And it sounds like a scapegoat from a marketing company to just say it's a process. Mm-hmm. But where we try to do is we try to have quick wins, but then also show data of, hey, this thing is growing and the KPIs underneath are growing enough where we're going to start to see these results. We can see the waves coming in the distance.
Yes. Clients, they love that initial return with those quick wins, but they also love to see that graph of their keyword rankings grow over time.
I totally agree. I mean, one other thing, and I'll show you one other graph here, is that give me 1 second here. One other graph that I have here is sort of saying that in this process, what happens is this is what we call a growth-driven design model. And a growth-driven design model is commonly set up so that, let's say hypothetically, they build a new website or they hire a new marketing company. And then 3 to 5 years later, or maybe even a shorter term, they're saying that marketing company didn't work out. So we're going to either build a new website or we're going to do a different thing, and we're chasing trends. And so I kind of call that bad idea number 1 and then bad idea number 2. What I mean by that is, are they growing? Yeah, they might be growing. But what I kind of view that as is sort of just reinventing the wheel. And you know what? What I'd rather be able to do is be in a scenario here where we kind of look at it like it's kind of like the Apollo rockets, that in the beginning, when the man first landed on the moon, we shot the rocket up in space generally at the moon, but then we course corrected it. We moved left, we moved right, we moved left, we moved right. And we eventually got to the moon and back to Earth safely. The same thing happens with marketing. We're going to develop that really firm foundation. We're going to use best practices. But if we were really honest, we're sort of just guessing. But what we're going to do is we're going to set up that marketing plan. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure, and we're going to keep measuring, and we're going to be adjusting and moving left and moving right. And we're going to change titles, and we're going to optimize SEO, and we're going to re-optimize SEO. And we're going to A/B test, and we're going to figure out what's working and what's not working. So that if I move left and right, I'm basically sharpening that spear, over time by just making small adjustments. And when you do that, your growth is consistently higher than making these big, broad changes.
Yeah. I love that analogy. You have your goal in sight and you just course correct as you need to get there. And I really like, and I think clients appreciate too, is when we make those adjustments, we can show them the data, why we're making those adjustments, and reallocating their budget where we need it to go to get a bigger return. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that I think that we try to do very specifically is, while we come off as subject matter experts and we're going to tell you what's possible, we're going to get buy-in from the client before we make moves. And so a lot of times if a client would ever leave us, we have a really high retention rate, but if the client would ever leave us, I would say, well, what part of what we did you disagree about? My job was to give you all the data and all the options, and then we chose together. So if you're mad at me, you should also be mad at yourself a little bit, because we're in this together. We're partnered. It's not like we went rogue and said, this is what you need to do. And they were like, well, we disagree. And like, well, we're going to just do it anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that kind of shows the power of partnership. And so when we talk about a blog as saying how to pay less, what it's really doing is it's changing how we hire, how you're going to hire for marketing. And what I mean by that is, let me kind of give you an analogy here. Let me see if I can do this justice. In the beginning of the process, what you're going to see here is, give me 1 second here. I'm just going to share my screen one more time. Marketing is moving really fast. In fact, like we're at a spot now where, as of 2020, there's, about 2 billion blogs. That's one blog for every 7 people. And there's content going out literally every minute. It's just, the scale is just massive. Now, usually what happens is a company will go and they will hire one individual to run their marketing. That person might be a CMO, might be a director of marketing, or it's just a marketing guy or gal. And that person could be awesome. They could be amazing. They could really, really, really know a lot about marketing. And we work with a lot of partners that have that person, and we do really well in a partnership with them. But that person, I'm calling him Mary Marketing. Mary has a stack of papers on her desk that's a mile high. And you say, hey, Mary, how you doing with SEO? And you're like, well, we're good, but we could always be better. It's on my list. Or how you doing with automation? Good, but it's on my list. The reality is that marketing is moving so fast that it is not even close to being a one-person job. In fact, you need subject matter experts in each of these critical areas. So Mary would have to know, just the capacity to know all the critical things that happen in each of these areas. It's just too much. And so what happens here is Mary's going to go and she's going to say to the boss, I need to hire someone to write content. And so that's going to increase overhead. And then we're going to outsource some social media. And then, SEO is really hard. So I'm going to need a subject matter expert for that. I'm taxing my web guy, and everything has to remain on brand. What happens here is you just got a lot of money going out the door. But what I want to be able to do is implement a system that's a team-based approach. And that's what we do at Farotech. So we have the subject matter experts here. All they do is thinking about their craft. They're always thinking about their subject. And what happens here is that you get an account manager and you get access to these subject matter experts that are going to do the work on your behalf. And when you compare that with hiring internally or using multiple vendors, it's going to come in at a deep, deep discount.
Yeah.
So when I write a blog and I say something like, hey, you know what? When I say, hey, we're going to save you money, we're going to save you money because in a 3 to 5 year window, if you go and you just hire one other person, the amount of money that you're going to save by using a team-based approach compared to just continuing to hire or use multiple vendors, it's not even close. So that's where the money comes in.
Yeah, and we are so focused individually on our specialties that we are always learning, always innovating, always growing in our specific lanes. And I think that even the spend for having to educate all of your individual hires would be excessive when you have a team that just does it for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can think of one client in particular that she is the marketing Mary, or Mary marketing, that her company basically expected her to just do all of this stuff. Like, here's your budget and you just have to go and do all of that. When she came to us, she like got to look like a rock star because we became her marketing team. And she just blew it out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I want them to know their own product, their own service, their own messages, but we're the team that has the time that they don't. And so they're going to do what they need to do, and we're going to be the team in the background getting the stuff done.
Yes.